So I've been a little bit unsure as to whether to make this video or not, but well, here I am, and I'll get into a few more reasons why I decided to make this video a bit later on. But yeah, unfortunately, the title of the video is correct. I do have cancer, which sounds really surreal still coming out of my mouth, but yeah, that's where we're at. So I have a rare form of cancer called neuroendocrine cancer, and for me that means that I have a tumour of the small intestines, which unfortunately as well has spread. The cancer has spread to my liver, so I've got a number of tumours in my liver as well. So not the best news in the world. So yeah, I'm gonna just take you back and tell you the story of how I've reached this point and what's going to be happening going forward. But you have to go back to January 2020. So in January 2020, I was in a meeting and I felt a hot flush come on. So I felt a really warm, dry feeling over my face and my upper chest. And I noticed I'd gone really red, and I was a bit like, that's a bit odd. Left the meeting, it cleared up after about 30 seconds. But then it happened a few more times over the next couple of months, and I was a bit concerned about it. I was doing a bit of research, I was on Google, which is often a mistake when it comes to medical things, but I was searching around and kept coming back as telling me that I had one of the primary symptoms for carcinoid syndrome, which is a syndrome that you can get from having a neuroendocrine tumour. So neuroendocrine tumours can release high levels of certain hormones, often serotonin, and they can cause these episodes of often hot flushes where your face goes really red and your chest goes really red. So I started getting a little bit concerned. Obviously, we'd gone into lockdown here in the UK, so it was a bit difficult to see any doctors, and I waited till about April to speak to my doctor, or a doctor. So I rang the surgery, had a chat with them, told them my concerns, and the doctor hadn't really heard about carcinoid syndrome. Actually, as I say, it's a rare thing to happen. But she ran some routine bloods. So I went and had a blood test. That came back normal, which was reassuring in one way, but also didn't really answer anything for me. So the flushing continued over the next couple of weeks. I got back in touch, spoke with the same doctor, and also I mentioned a 24-hour urine test that I'd read about that can basically measure the levels of serotonin in your body, and if it comes back high, it's kind of indicative that you might have a neuroendocrine tumour. She wasn't aware of anywhere local that ran that particular urine test, which is a bit disappointing to hear. But there is something you can measure in the blood as well that can give an idea of whether you have a neuroendocrine tumour, and that is your niacin level. So I went off for another blood test and got my niacin level checked. That came back normal, which was, that was quite reassuring. But it's not the best blood test in the world to rule out neuroendocrine cancer anyway. But so I went off, and next month or so, still happening. Also had some real sinus issues going on as well. So I was producing a lot of phlegm at the back of my throat, and that was really, really bothering me. That was bothering me more than the flushing, to be honest with you. I had weird feeling in my teeth. So I got back in touch with the doctors. I spoke with a different doctor. Not out of choice, it's just, the first doctor was very nice, but the next doctor I spoke to was a different doctor, and they kind of went down the route of the sinus problems, and basically prescribed nasal spray and told me to irrigate my sinuses. So I tried that for a couple of weeks, or probably about a month. That didn't help. So I got back in touch, spoke with another doctor, and they stayed on this whole sinus thing. I went on to some antibiotics. That didn't help. So yeah, I was a little bit lost. I was a bit like, okay, what's going on here then? So next couple of months went by. Flushing had got even worse. It was happening every day, several times a day. Still sort of 30 seconds at a time, but I knew something wasn't right. I eventually called the doctor back again, so I spoke to a fourth doctor, and now by this time it was probably late September, so we'd gone through all of summer. Spoke to a very nice doctor, so I had a good chat. She said that it sounds to her like I'm maybe having an overreactive adrenal response, which is something I'd kind of wondered. Maybe it was all slightly psychological, and things had got a little bit out of control, out of whack with my adrenal system, and I was reacting you know, maybe I had a heightened fight and flight response to things that I shouldn't have. That's what she thought it was. And then obviously I mentioned to her, look, I'm concerned that it could be this, I could have a neuroendocrine tumour, feeling like I was a complete hypochondriac saying that, but you know, I mentioned it to her anyway. I said, yeah, you know, it just keeps, every bit of research I do, it keeps coming back to that. And she reassured me that she'd only ever known one person in her 20 years that had ever had a neuroendocrine tumour. So I felt good about that. And, you know, it's also, you know, it's a rare cancer, and it's also very rare in young people, apparently. So I went away thinking, okay, we'll give it a little bit longer. Now that if I can convince myself that it is a psychological thing, and maybe I can calm things down. But the next day I got a phone call from the doctors, and, you know, I was a bit surprised to see the number pop up on my phone. And it was the same doctor that I talked to the day before. And she said, you got me thinking, I think we should perhaps rule out neuroendocrine tumours, and I've managed to find, or the lab has agreed to run the 24-hour urine test that you talked about, and then we can rule that out, and then if that comes back normal, then I think you're absolutely fine. So I was quite reassured by this. I was thinking, at least I'm going to perhaps, you know, be able to rule that out completely now from my mind. So I went off, I had to do the 24-hour urine test, which is not the most fun thing. You have to carry a big urine bottle around with you for 24 hours. But I ran that test, or did that test, and then, yeah, that test came back high, so that indicated I had high levels of serotonin. Now the lab wanted me to redo the test, because often it can come back with a false positive due to things you might have been eating in the days leading up to doing the test and stuff. So they asked me to eliminate lots of different foods. Now the first test I'd already eliminated the foods because I'd read about it beforehand. But I thought, okay, we'll retest it, tick all the boxes. So retested it, and again it came back same levels, high. So the doctor, I had another chat with the doctor, and she said, listen, I'm going to have to refer you now. This is sort of outside of my scope of practice, so let's get you to see some specialists. So I got referred to the specialists, but there was obviously, you know, there's a wait for everything. There's a lot of waiting around with this thing, and that's the hardest bit. But I waited for the referral to the specialist. They agreed to do a CT scan. So I went off and had a CT scan with contrast dye. So you get injected with a dye, and that lights up your sort of major blood vessels and major organs to just give you a better view of things. And that was on the 9th of January. So, you know, we've had a year now, pretty much a year since my symptoms started. Then I was called in I got a phone call to ask me to come in and see a consultant on the 21st. So obviously when I got that phone call, I immediately thought the worst. I started preparing for the worst, because particularly in these times, I don't think you get called in to a consultant for them to just say, oh, everything's fine. So I was kind of prepared for it, but yeah, I went in. I had to go in on my own. Jenny was in the car waiting for me, and yeah, I remember it very clearly, as you can imagine. But yeah, he sat me down. He's a very nice doctor. Sat me down and went through my scans with me, showed me all my CT scans, and got to my abdomen and showed me a 3.7 centimetre tumour, which obviously your heart sinks immediately when he tells you that, and he says, you know, this is a form of cancer. And then he went on and showed me the liver, and there was lots of, well, not lots, I think there's three visible grey areas of the liver, suggesting more tumours in the liver. Well, that was a real body blow, literally. So yeah, that wasn't great news, obviously. But he because he wasn't a specialist in this particular cancer, he then has referred me to some specialists in neuroendocrine tumours. So that was on the 21st, and so it was another 2 weeks to wait until I saw these particular specialists. Now those 2 weeks were pretty awful 2 weeks. Start thinking the worst. Every little sort of ache and pain I was getting, I was, you know, worried that it was spreading. But eventually got in to see the specialists, and they exceeded my expectations, to be honest. They were incredibly knowledgeable on the subject of neuroendocrine tumours. So up to this point, everyone I'd spoken to didn't, had sort of limited knowledge of it, which I don't blame them for. It's very rare cancer, but it was just nice to speak to someone who knew a lot more than I did about it. So I asked them lots and lots of questions. Obviously, I'd gone in to that appointment expecting them to say that once it gets to your liver, there's not a lot we can do other than manage it. I didn't think though they were going to tell me, I only had a few months to live or anything like that. The sort of the bonus, I don't know if you can say it's a bonus, but one of the good things about this cancer is it often is quite slow growing. And my particular tumour does have the hallmarks of being a slow growing cancer, which is I've obviously got on my side. But I was expecting them to say, look, there's lots of treatment options, but we're just going to have to, you're probably never going to get rid of it. We're going to have to manage it for as long as we can. But I was delighted when they said, look, we're going to try and approach this as aggressively as we can. You're a young man, and we're hoping that we're going to be able to surgically remove everything, all the cancer. So I was I didn't shout with joy, but inside I was very, very happy that they were going to go down that route, or hope to go down that route. So that is dependent on one thing, and I've got to get a couple more scans to allow that to happen, or for that to be the plan. And I've got to get a scan of an MRI of my liver to get a better view of where the tumours are in my liver and how diseased my liver is. If there's a lot more tumours in there than was visible on the CT scan, then it might not be possible to remove the tumours from my liver. But they're hopeful from what they can see on the CT that they'll be able to remove a portion of my liver to get rid of all the cancer. So fingers crossed that is what will happen in my future. But I've got to wait now another couple of weeks for those scans. So yeah, another couple of nervy weeks waiting, trying not to overthink it if I can. And then if I get that news that they can operate, I'm going to be over the moon, to be honest with you. It's the best thing I can hope for. And then an operation hopefully before the summer. But again, obviously it's crazy times, cancer treatments getting pushed back, so I might be a bit of a victim of that. But once I get the scans, I can start on what's called somatostatin analogues, which are a monthly injection. So those somatostatin analogues basically stop the release of the serotonin, and they often as well can halt the growth, or at least slow the growth of the tumours. So once I'm able to take those, and I can't take those until I've had these next scans because they can alter the scans, but once I've started on those injections, I'll feel a lot better. That at least the tumours are being slowed down anyway. But yeah, that's where we're at. I'm feeling mostly positive about it. I'm not gonna lie, I do have my ups and downs, but yeah, just trying to stay positive. Fingers crossed we can just beat this and get through it and just have a story to tell at the end of it all. I mean, even if they do remove all the cancer, then I'm going to be closely monitored for the rest of my life. But that's absolutely fine with me if we can just start from zero, and then we can keep a close eye on it if it decides to ever come back. So that's where we're at. And yeah, so why did I make this video? Why did I decide to make this video? Well, one of the big things is for awareness of this particular cancer. So I've done quite a bit of reading up around it, and the sort of organisations for neuroendocrine cancer and neuroendocrine tumours, they are pushing for better awareness of this particular cancer. And for me, if I can do even a small bit to increase the awareness of it, then I'm going to give it a go. It gives me a good purpose in this difficult time of my life. And yes, I've got a very small platform here on YouTube, but who knows? Maybe some member of the public, it might help some member of the public, or even a medical professional, to just learn a little bit more about this particular condition, or at least be aware of this condition. So that's one big reason why I wanted to make this video. Also for me as well, I found in the last few weeks a bit of a comfort to find people online who are managing to live, quite full and normal lives despite, quite advanced cancer diagnoses. So if I can be a help to anyone that might just be getting this diagnosis themselves, or going through something similar, then that'll be, you know, it's worth it. So that's another reason why I've made this video. And from a personal point of view as well, you know, I've spent the last 18 months or whatever making these videos, and I've really enjoyed it, and I don't really want to give that up. And you know, maybe things are going to have to pivot slightly. I'm not just going to be running around on the trails, although I do plan on getting back out there soon. But yeah, things are going to change a little bit on the channel, but I want to just continue to create. It's good for my mind, it's a good distraction. But yeah, that's it. That's why I've decided to make this video. But thank you very much for watching it, if you've got this far. I've rambled on perhaps slightly, but that's why I've made it. I'm sorry if you know me personally and this is the way you're finding out about this, but don't worry too much about me. As I say, I'm trying to keep my spirits up. I'm very blessed to have, you know, amazing wife and amazing family and amazing friends. So I'm certainly not alone in this. So don't worry about me too much. Getting a plan together, formulating that plan, and we're ready to just attack it as much as we can. And yeah, fingers crossed things go well. All right, I'll keep you up to date with what's going on. But thanks again for watching. All right, bye.